Suburbs failure, economical and environmental, created after World War II. Now we need to fix the epidemic of high housing costs in the city. Why the suburbs is a failure and how we need more affordable housing in our cities for all various scales of income. At the end of the day, all different incomes work in the city and everyone's job is equally important. Another reason why the suburbs are a big no-no is for the carbon footprint and is significantly larger than those living in the city. There are a few reasons why poverty is becoming so concentrated in the suburbs. One has to do with where it's possible to find affordable housing. After all, many suburbs were built decades ago as developers tried to offer up more spacious locations for growing families after World War II. As those homes aged, the middle-class families who once lived in them leave in search of nicer, newer places being built in either in farther suburbs or in rehabilitated downtowns. Elizabeth Kneebone and Alan Berube, in Confronting Suburban Poverty in America, wrote, "Many of these communities beckon the infrastructure, safety net supports, and resources to address the needs of a growing poor population, which can make it that much harder for poor residents to connect to the kinds of opportunities that can help them get out of poverty in the long run," she said. So the problem speaks to a different kind of erosion of the American dream, in which families strive to get to the much bragged about suburbs, only to find out that there's nothing for them there. As suburbs see more and more poverty, they fall into the same traps that impoverish them, where some born there have few chances to improve his or her economic standing. James Howard Kunstler, in the TED Talk, "The Ghastly Tragedy of the Suburbs," said in 2004, he claims that the suburbs was a misallocation, a habitat that was inducing anxiety and depression in children, where there's nothing for them to do, where they get bored and in some cases try new drugs, where in some cases have become an epidemic now. Moving on to environmental challenges, Studio G Architects, located in Massachusetts, has a focus on preserving the planet to meet social need for housing and help develop a vibrant economy that supports local communities. They say design is a powerful tool. It educates, engages, and transforms. I think they're really right. And we have to educate clients about design process relative to their needs and surrounding context. We need to engage diverse stakeholders in developing their vision and subsequently garner enthusiastic support through design. We will then have the power to transform local environments and the people who inhabit them. Per project, Studio G Architects are people-centered, place-specific, and environmentally sensitive. Studio G designs with economical use of resources over the building life cycle. They say that they reduce energy, carbon, and water footprint as feasible in each project and target net zero energy when possible. In the city, housing already makes up the largest share of most American spending, and continued escalation in housing costs forces individuals to spend less on food, healthcare, utilities, and other necessities. Various factors contribute to the insufficient supply of housing in high-cost areas: scarcity of land, restrictive land use controls, environmental and other regulations, insufficient infrastructure, expensive building materials, cumbersome permitting processes, community opposition to higher density development, tight credit and financing, and etc. The severity of these barriers varies from place to place, but taking as a whole, they almost always lead to the production of too few housing units. Developers, yes, are in business to make a profit and are easily persuaded to act contrary to that goal. but the actual issues surrounding what gets built, when, and for whom are far more complex. Although we have Congress pretending to try to help with the crisis with LIHTC, Low Income Housing Tax Credit, which was created in 1986 to encourage developers to create affordable housing and was actually updated earlier in March of this year. It goes deeper than that by city. First of all, new construction is expensive, and that is not including the purchase of the land, which is usually quite high, especially when it's in the city. Two, city zoning limits the creation of less expensive housing. By limiting what we can build, zoning and other land use regulations may well restrict the total number of new homes in a given neighborhood, city, or even region to far fewer than the market would otherwise provide. Rick Jacobs makes a comparison of the housing market to cars and defense developers, and he says, so the problem is not greed. The development industry is behaving exactly the way we would expect any industry to respond to an artificial cap on their production volume. The same thing would happen in the auto industry. If we limited Toyota to only 100,000 cars per year, they might as well choose to keep the Lexus and scrap the Camry, even though at volume the Camry is more profitable. In addition, some cities require developers to use expensive materials for the facades of multifamily structures to promote visual and architectural interest. Others require the dedication of land or money toward various public priorities as a condition of certain approvals. Still, others have extensive stormwater management requirements that can make urban infill construction in environments where there may not be much room for lawn or retention pond prohibitively expensive and difficult. It's that the trade-off may hurt the affordable rental market disproportionately. Another hidden cost of development can be the time delays involved in local government review processes. These delays and the attendant uncertainty impose very real monetary costs on developers, who have to control their land and thus pay property taxes on it, as well as interest on any loans used to finance its purchase. All this while their proposed projects make their way through the approval pipeline with the city. So, I think that we need to, as architects, do three things. One, hold a seat in our city council. We need to be more involved in our local government. Hold a seat as a city council, and we can have through that power to teach other city councils when developers come in to approve a project. Of course, when and if it will serve our community well, we shall be on their side. They want money and we want homes for everybody. Win-win. We also need to think small. Affordable housing will not just come in the form of single-family homes, duplexes, and apartments. Strong Towns Communications Director Rachel Cano writes that we can make great strides to increase the availability of affordable housing by encouraging small-scale housing options like accessory dwelling units, tiny homes, and micro apartments. Strong Towns member Nolan Gray also reminds us that the original tiny homes, trailers, and RVs are still viable and important affordable housing option. Third, localizing it. Strong towns emphasize the value of financing affordable housing at the local level instead of relying on federal handouts to fund housing development. He writes, the federal government matters, but ultimately, building strong towns means building local economic ecosystems that are in balance and sustainable, where local funds are able to meet local needs in ways that are responsive to local conditions. And I leave you guys there. Thank you.